Hello, one and all. I'm your boy, Harry Wilmington. Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I have been on a semi little vacation this past month. So I pre recorded some shows and then I've been out and about doing other things. I went on vacation. I've been working on stuff at the website. But I missed you guys and I wanted to do a live show because in the past month, I've gotten a few questions from people either in my comment section or in my email section. And there's also been some comments and questions that I've seen on Reddit that I feel should have my commentary on it. And so tonight we're just doing that. I'm just going to go bit by bit through some questions and give some answers. And you are also allowed to be a part of this too. So put this banner up here real quick. So if you guys in the course of this live have any questions you'd like me to answer, simply leave them in the chat. And if they're appropriate enough, I will answer them live for you right now. All right. Also, guys, be sure to go to the website. I got ebooks, I got audiobooks and programs. And right now I'm considering trying to consolidate all that stuff into one thing. So in terms of them currently being separated, I might be changing that very, very soon. I don't know how yet, but I'm still trying to figure that part out. And that'll be next month's goal. But in the meantime, go there now. I got a lot of great stuff there. I got my Introvert Dating Success program. I got ebooks, all the other stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into some questions that I have received during the course of my break that I feel warrant answering. So let's start with this person's question. So this guy, I never read you guys' names. I never talk and tell anybody who it is that asks these questions. So your questions to me can be safe and secure, knowing that if you don't want people to know that it's you, they will never know. But this person wrote me and he said, "Hey, Harry, what's up? I am a short man, and I mean short. I'm 5'4" to be exact. And sometimes I feel like it changes things when it comes to dating. I was wondering if you could do an episode on your view and advice for dating short men." So I want to say this. Obviously, I am not a short man. I'm like average height for most men. I'm like 5'9.5". And even at my height, there will be women that'll say, well, that's not tall enough. I need a 6-foot guy. And that's what we hear a lot of times with all the, RP stuff in the media saying, oh, most women want like a 6-foot tall guy, yada, yada, yada. And well, here's the truth, okay? Is that yes, as a 5'4" guy, if you're going on dating apps trying to date women, you're probably not going to get a lot of swipes. And I'm actually going to do an episode where I saw a TikTok recently where this woman talked about how she's dating a guy that's now 5'7" and how she just felt so bad because he's such a great guy on most normal circumstances, she would have never tried to date him because he was 5'7", even though she's like 5'4", 5'5", But I will say this. Yes, your height can be a thing that blocks you or gets in the way of you being able to date the way you want to. But I got news for you. Height is not the only thing out there that will hinder a guy from being able to date the way he wants to. For example, I'm an African American. Statistically, on most dating apps, I am like the low man on the totem pole. Okay. There are people that have various handicaps, whether they've lost legs or arms or they have, Asperger's or some kind of like disability that doesn't put them in the what we consider the normal range for women to be considered attractive. Okay. But the thing is that you have guys that are 6 foot tall, make six figures a year, have six-pack abs that are able to initially attract women and then can't keep them. Why? Because at the end of the day, they don't have the skills necessary to really create an attraction and keep it long term. And so one of the advantages you can create for yourself is to be able to learn the necessary skills that it takes to really attract women. This is knowing how to, converse with them, how to talk about things that they'd like to talk about, knowing how to present yourself in the way that is masculine, knowing what things to mention to them that'll give them the indication that they should be attracted to you, learning to be indifferent to outcomes, learning various skills and hobbies, being a guy that goes on adventures and takes life by the horns without having to have a woman there to do that stuff. So when you come to these women and you're telling authentic stories about your life, they're going to be intrigued and start thinking about how they can possibly be part of your life. Okay. So you have to understand that, yes, being short is a handicap, but you have to learn to be able to say, okay, if I'm handicapped in the height area, what other skills as it pertains to dating can I enhance to better my chances of being able to attract women? Now, even with that said, here's another thing you may not have considered is that not all women are taller than you. Like, yes, you might meet, you're 5'4", you might meet women that are like 5'5" to 5'10" or higher, but there's a whole population of shorter women out there that range. Like, I have women friends, for example, that are like 5'1", 5'2", 4'11". Okay. And so those women, to those women, you're going to be taller than them already. And a woman that's like 5'1", it's not that she can't date a guy that's 6 feet. It's just that's 11 inches taller. It's going to be hard to reach up to him and kiss him, and she's going to be bending down and hurt himself. So she may be in the market for a guy that's taller than her, but not that much taller than her. Okay. And so most of these dating apps, if you're going on them, they list, most women list what their height is. But even in the real world, if you're just out and about in your day to day, you can find women that are shorter than you, that are attractive, that you can start a conversation with and be able to date. So you might consider looking in that area. Also, quiet as it's kept, there are tall women out there that are like 5'11", 6 feet, that are kind of embarrassed about their height. And they are as insecure about how tall they are as you are about how small, how short you are. And so that means that that 6 foot woman might think that no guys that are shorter than her would ever want to date her. And she could feel some kind of way about that. So you could be going up to these 6 foot tall women and trying to talk to them because no other guy that's shorter than her is probably trying to talk to her. Now, will you face rejection? I mean, you could, but the reality is in dating, you can face rejection for anything. You can meet a woman that's like 5 foot and still get rejected. Okay. But don't let that be a deterrent from you trying to date or looking up potential dating prospects that could fit and actually wouldn't mind dating somebody your height. Again, on some level, there's always going to be a handicap there. Again, a guy that's 6 foot tall could not have a lot of money. A guy that has a lot of money could be balding. A guy that's not balding could be of a different race that isn't statistically, one of the higher races that gets picked for. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of things. It boils down to how are you in your head trying to remedy this so you can actually get a date? Because if your goal is just to complain about it, you could do that until you're dead and never get anybody. So you want to look at, okay, you're 5'4", you already know there's going to be a crowd of women that aren't going to swipe right on you or swipe left on you or whatever it is. Or when they see you in public, you're going to think, oh my God, fine. What other things could you be bringing to the table that's going to allow you to then pass that up so you can actually get women that you want? Just something to consider. So hopefully that guy that answered your question. Now let's go on to another question that I wanted to answer here. This guy wants to know how long he would keep trying to keep in contact with a date. So he goes like this. He says, he's 39, she's 35. He says, I met this woman off a dating app after talking for about a week. We had a few drinks and ended up talking for 3 hours. There was a lot of laughing and convo flowed smoothly and lots in common. Bartender actually ended up giving us another round on the house since I guess he even thought it was going well. Kudos to that bartender. He's like, I'm going to help you out with this game, guy. He says, I was still mentally prepared that this may be just a one-time date. Anyway, at the end of the date, we said goodbye, and I texted her the next day saying, have a nice weekend, and I'll be around next week if she wants to meet up. She says, sure, let's talk later to figure out a day. Okay, so there's more to the message, but I'm just going to say, based on the first paragraph, there's a lot of things that he did wrong here. Now, he may not think that because most guys go into these situations and they figure as long as the woman's not cursing them out or saying, how dare you, this is a horrible date, that everything's going fine. But you got to understand, there's a lot of moves and psychological factors that go into whether or not a woman at the end of the date is going to want to see you again. Okay. And a lot of guys aren't aware of what these things are. Heck, a lot of women aren't even aware that when men say or do certain things, it hits a certain triggers in their bodies that make them say either I'm still turned on by this guy, I'm more turned on by this guy, or, oh, I don't want to date this guy anymore. It's a thing that they just feel, so they don't really oftentimes analyze it. But I do. So let's get into that. Okay. So first thing, he says, we had a few drinks and ended up talking for 3 hours. Now, most guys won't see that as a mistake. Hey, we had a good time on a date. We didn't want it to end, and we just talked and drank and drank. I typically err on the side of keeping dates no longer than like at most 90 minutes. I really try to, for that first date, I try to do like a dinner date, like a pizza place or something that's like relatively cheap. So you can just can talk or whatever. But usually about around the hour mark, I'm trying to get out of there. Now, why do I do that? Because I want her to want more of my company. And it's that whole showbiz adage of you got to leave them wanting more. If you don't leave the woman wanting more and you give too much of yourself on that first date, in her head, there's going to be no reason to see you again because she's basically gotten everything out of you that she could. Now, there are going to be some people that hear this and say, well, I know people who they went on a first date with their now spouse and their first date was like 5 or 6 hours and then they slept together and then they stayed overnight and yada, yada. Can it work? It can, but I give you guys advice based on probability. And the probability of you getting a second date goes up a lot higher if you keep that first date to a short, tight 60 to 90 minutes. When you go over that, what starts to happen is you're thinking we're still laughing and joking and drinking and having a good time. Women on those first dates are going to be cordial. They're going to be nice. They're not going to try to rock the boat. And so after that first hour, you might be thinking that you can keep this thing going. She, on her side of things, might be thinking, I kind of want to leave. I'm ready to go. This guy is great, but I don't really know him that well. And I want to, get back to my home or I have friends, yada, yada, yada. But she doesn't want to hurt your feelings. So she'll go along with it because women are following your lead. Okay. This starts very, very early in the dating process. Women are looking to follow your lead. And so if your lead's saying we're going to do this date for 3 hours, then she's not going to jump off the boat for that. But that doesn't mean she's going to jump on the boat later when you ask for a second date. So when he said 3 hours in the first sentence, I was like, oh, this is already bad. He should have kept it to a tight 60 to 90 minutes, told some jokes, get her laughing, drank like 1, maybe 2 drinks tops. And really at the height of the enjoyment of this date, you pull the plug. Well, time to go. Because now she's thinking, oh, this is such a great date. I could have spent so much more time with him, but I didn't get to. Oh, I guess I'll have to go on another date with him to make that happen. Versus 3 hours, it's like, oh God, 3 hours. Oh, this date's finally over. Thank God. Now, again, she may have had a good time, but subconsciously, that's a long time for a woman that doesn't really know you to be forced in a way to have to stay with you for that long to spend time with you. Okay. And that can subconsciously cause her to resent the fact that you took that much of her time to where she doesn't want that to happen again. Okay. So again, err on the side of keeping your first dates 60 to 90 minutes. Okay. Let's see, anything else here in this first paragraph? And then he says, at the end of the date, he said goodbye and he texted her the next day. I have done whole videos and shows about why it is you do not text women the next day. You take her on a date, you show her a good time, you say, I had a great time. You don't tell her that you want to see her again, and you definitely don't text her the next day to reiterate that you had a great time. You had a great time on a date that you took her on. Like, why are you reaching out to tell her that? You don't need to, okay? This is why it's better. Again, probability. I've had more success where I go on a date with the woman, I have a good time, I show her a good time, I say, I hope you had a nice time, and I leave, and I don't contact her for a few days before I hit her up again 4 to 5 days later asking for another date. I've had more success with that than when I hit a girl back the next day, hope you had a good time, we should do this again soon, blah, 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 blah. But hey, don't listen to me. Let's see what happened to this guy, all right? So he says, I texted her the next day saying, have a nice weekend. I'll be around next week if she wants to meet up. She says, sure, let's talk later to figure out a day. Okay, so right here, the fact that he said to her, have a nice weekend and I'll be around next week if she wants to meet up. 1, it's ambiguous. And 2, the reason that ambiguity is a problem is because what that says to women is, hey, I'm free all the time. Anytime you want to go out, I'm going to be ready to go. Women want to date a guy that has other things going on besides her. When you say stuff like, I'll be around next week, anytime you want to do some stuff, it's signaling to her that you're already trying to bend your life to fit her schedule. And women that are on these first or second dates with you aren't ready to feel that from you. In fact, they should never feel that from you because they should always assume that you have other stuff going on and that if you want to see her, you'll schedule specific times to see her because you have other things that are more important than her going on, like following your dreams, making money, various other things. Okay. So as soon as he said this, I'll be around next week if she wants to meet up. I'm already thinking, oh my God, he's already messing up because he's already saying to her that she's already got him in the palm of her hand. And women don't want that, but men don't understand that because we think if we let her know, hey, I'm free anytime, then she can just mention anytime and I'll be ready to go. And she'll like that. And women don't like that. Okay. Again, I've been in this guy's shoes. I get it. So it's frustrating, guys, but you got to start being the guy that's like, hey, end of the date, had a great time, and then wait. And then when you hit her up that first time, after like a few days after that first date, that's when you're going with the, hey, so had a great time on the last date, want to take you out again. I'm free on this day or this day to take you here. Let me know which one works for you. Short, simple, but it lays out the actual times and days that you're available versus just being, I'm free whenever guy. Never be the free whenever guy. All right. Continuing. He says, I text her a few days later and she asked if we can push meeting back a week. I say, sure. And she says she will check her schedule and get back to me. A week goes by with no word from her. I ping her again to see how things are going. She replies 2 days later saying she's been busy at work, but we should hang out again next month when things settle down. Okay, so let me ask you guys this question. Does this sound like a woman that is highly interested in going out with this guy? Well, let's look at what she said. So he texts her and she says, can we push it being back a week? But she doesn't say like what day. Hey, can we push it back to like next Monday, next Wednesday? She just is very ambiguous. This is a big word I'm saying today is ambiguous and ambiguity, because anytime there's ambiguity going on from a woman, that's always a bad sign. Women that like you are all about times, days, situations, places that we can go, exact times and things they will mention when they want to see you. If they don't, they leave it very, very wide open as if, oh, it'll happen eventually. Oh, I'll let you know at some point in the future. Maybe this thing will happen. And that's never a good sign. And so, the fact that even then a week goes by, she doesn't respond to this guy. And then when he hits her up again, she waits 2 days to contact him. Does this sound like a woman that is excited about going out with this guy? I tell you guys, you only want to go out with hell yes women. That means when you ask them out, they're like, absolutely, let's do the thing. If they're saying, well, maybe, I'm not sure, or let me check my schedule without actually like checking their schedule or getting back with you, those are all signals that she's not interested and you need to move on to the next one. Now, I will say kudos for this guy because he also did the thing in terms of following up that I recommend, which is you ask a woman out. If she says no, fine. You wait a week before you ask her out again. If at that point she's still giving you the, oh, maybe, oh, I'm busy, yada, 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 then you move on. So you only follow up 2 times with the woman before you move on. Because again, if she wanted to see you, it wouldn't take more than 2 times to get her out on a date. Like as busy as this woman is at work, a woman that highly likes you isn't so busy that she can't see you. You tell me she's so busy during the weekday that she can't fit in a Saturday or Sunday date, or she can't fit in like a lunch outing, or, post one day at work. She can't be like, hey, you know what? I had a long work day. It's 7 o'clock and I kind of want to go home, but I also want to eat. So if you want to eat with me, we can meet up. Like women that like you, help you. Women that don't, won't. It's very simple. All right. Continuing. He says, am I being too negative by thinking this is a waste of time at this point? You're not being negative. You're facing reality, which is that it is a waste of time. She waited a week she waited a week and didn't text you back. And then at the point where you hit her up again, she waits 2 more days and says, let's see each other next month. So she's got the next full 30 days planned out to where she can't see you at all. Unless she's going out of town or, is like going to the hospital for something, she has like no real reason for this to happen. So yeah, it's a waste of time. He says, I know it's only one date and I enjoyed her company, but any excitement I had about this person is all but gone. And this goes to show you, it's not about how much you enjoyed her company. And there's a lot of guys do this. Is they'll say like, well, I had a good time on the date. Why didn't she want to contact me? You're not taking into account the fact that did she have a good time on the date? Or even if she did, were you able to raise her attraction enough to where she wants to see you again? If not, then how good of a time you had on the date doesn't matter. All that matters is that she's not getting back to you, which means that she is not interested. Okay, your interest in your enjoyment does not matter. He asked, I'm getting older and I've always had a hard time dating. I begin to wonder if I give up too easily. Do others think that things can work with persistence? If this was pre the pandemic, I would have not even followed up after the first reschedule. That's the thing is guys have this whole perception of how persistence is supposed to work, which is like, like in the movies and the TV shows, it's like, oh, well, if I see her enough times and if I keep knocking on her door, if I keep trying to go after her, then eventually I'm going to wear her down. But that's really like stalking, and that's other things that the Also Me movement has shown is not really, to a woman's liking. So basically, your persistence is in you ask her on a date, she says yes, you take her out, have a good time, take her home. You wait a few days, you do it again, and you keep doing that. That is the kind of persistence you want to show. What you don't want to do is be like, oh, she said no, let me ask her again. That's not persistent. That's not being annoying, okay? If, in this case, let's say this woman, you keep chasing her, she's going to eventually stop answering your calls altogether. So, in this case, I'd say you tried twice. Best of luck to you. I say move on to somebody else. Now, when you do that, what you might find is that if you do leave her alone long enough, she may possibly try to reach out to you and get back with you and try to see you again. But it's a very low possibility. So don't put your eggs in this basket. Move on to somebody else. If she hits you up, say, okay, that's great. And then ask her out again. Very simple. I don't like to complicate dating more than it has to. So if you ask a woman out and she's giving you all these excuses, it's typically a no. Take it for what it is. Most women aren't going to come out and directly just say no to you. So if they're saying anything other than a yes, it's a no. Know what it is. Move on to the next. Hopefully, guy, this helps you out. So let's move on to the next question. So this guy, he was going through a bit of a situation. He commented on one of my videos, and I forget which video it was, but his response was, it's a learning progress for sure. And then he says, I guess the goal is to become an alpha. And that's not, and I hate the whole thing of guys thinking well, I got to be this big alpha guy in order to get women. It's not necessarily about being the stereotypical alpha, meaning oh, I got to have big muscles and that. But there are levels to being confident in yourself, being assured of who you are, going after the goals that you want, and knowing that you're not going to take crap, especially from a woman if she tries to step on your toes. And women will test you on this. Women will, test you to see what your moxie is made of. They will try to start fights. They'll bring up situations to you or hypothetical questions that when you answer them, they know it's going to freak them out. And they're doing that to see if you're going to acquiesce to what they feel and change your mind. So those are the kind of things that you can develop that are going to be positive traits for you as a guy that as a default of that, women will find attractive. Okay. So work on those things. But anyway, he says, I was an alpha before and every woman wanted me. And then my life went downhill. Now I'm with a single mother and I know it's bad and it has to stop. But it's totally effed because she is my neighbor and only 5 meters away from me. We share the same house hallway. When we break up, we will know who is dating a new person, etc., which is totally effed if you ask me. But that's the risk you take in a dating situation. And I'll be honest, even if you guys weren't neighbors with each other, you could still end up dating somebody else and she sees that person on social media, or you guys run into each other at the mall while you're with a new person. There's always going to be a chance that could happen. Now, obviously, you living close to each other, that's a thing that could happen, but you can't let that bother you. If you find that the situation is not working for you, then you can break it off and see other people. If she sees it and wants to have a reaction to it, then so be it. But that's not your responsibility to be well, because we dated, I can't date anybody else after her because her feelings will be hurt. At the point that you guys break up, her feelings to you should be non-existent because she's no longer in your life. At best, you won't try to purposely push it in her face, but if she's looking out the window as you're coming home with a new woman, that's on her. If she can hear you guys or trying to listen to you guys do stuff in the house while she's around, then that's on her. But that's not your responsibility to make sure that her feelings aren't hurt if you no longer like her. Continuing, he says, when we break up and it'll be down. Okay, but I know it's bad. My gut feeling was screaming at the beginning. She had 3 kids and is 44. I'm 33 with no kids, and I look much better than her also. She is not the single mother that you would take an eye on at a party or something. So you ended up dating a 44-year-old single mom with three kids that isn't a looker. So you may want to start asking yourself, what is it about your self-esteem that made you think that this was going to be a good pick for you in spite of the red flags that we're showing from day one? All right. And yes, some guys, if they haven't been with somebody for a long time, they get desperate and they'll just take on anybody. Oh, you over there, I'll take you because I need somebody. But you really got to start doing better due diligence at who you're picking out. Okay. If you're going on a date with this woman on date one, she tells you, so I'm 44, I got three kids, my ex-baby daddy is trifling, and I don't really have a job, yada, 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 and other things that whatever she would have said, you can't just take that and be like, it's no big deal. Because it's going to become a big deal later once you've met the kids, once you've spent time with her, and especially once you've hooked up with her, then those ties are going to be harder to break. So this is just a future. This is the thing for you to learn now so you won't make the same mistake in the future, okay? Is that you don't want to be dating somebody that's showing all these red flags early on, because if you see these flags and you go with them, at that point, it's your fault. And I can't feel sorry for you if it's your fault for dating somebody that you knew had these kind of red flags in the beginning. Continuing, he says, she is not, okay, my life would be destroyed if she gets pregnant, and I really fear this, but she is taking the pill. Dude, I have a cousin that has sickle cell, and she had a kid, and so she was taking stuff to get rid of the sickle cell, but then she had this like sickle cell attack, and so they put her on something else. Well, she was also taking birth control. The new medicine that they put her on canceled out the birth control, and she got pregnant a second time. So don't think just because a woman's on the pill doesn't mean that if, things can't go a certain way to where she can't still get pregnant, okay? Or, you could be using condoms in the condom breaks. Like unless you guys are tying tubes and getting vasectomies and stuff, then real talk, that doesn't put you out of the danger zone. So again, if you're not trying to see her and be with her long term, you may want to stop hooking up with her altogether, and or like make sure those condoms are on extra tight. He says, I'm paranoid anyways, because as I heard, you often can't trust, yes, pills. And I know, and I only know her for 2 months now. 2 months. Oh, good Lord. Also, I recognize some red flags, like she cheated on her ex and she is kind of narcissistic. Again, you knew this going in and still decided to get with her. At this point, guy, it's on you. Now, to be fair, at the end of this message, he says, I would ask for advice, but I already know that only moving out from here is the option and breaking up with her. Also building myself up again because my life is a mess at the moment. Greetings from Germany. Hi, greetings. So I will say this, like, it's good that you recognize that, but, talk the talk, walk the walk. So you don't necessarily have to move away from this woman and being next door to you. I mean, ideally you can, but if you can't, then again, don't let that be a deterrent from you dating other people. If anything, you dating somebody else might cause her to move away because she doesn't want to see that. But the point is, don't feel bad if you start to meet other people and want to date them. But yeah, I would say you already done your own assessment of this. She's got Greg Adams likes to say more red flags than the Chinese parade, which I find funny. But yeah, she's got a lot of red flags, dude, and she's showing to me up front. So if you saw those red flags and you go out with her, it's not her fault. But now that you know that they're going to be a thing, because it's 2 months in, usually around the 3-month mark is when women start really thinking they want to be with you long term and want to be in relationships, yada, yada, yada. I don't know if you guys are already in a relationship or not, but if you're not, get out. If you are, get out. In any situation, this is not a healthy way to be with somebody, okay? So hopefully, guy, you'll be able to figure this out and make the moves you need to make to steer clear from this kind of person altogether, okay? Oh, my God. I'm going to go to this other question, too, because this kind of ties in with this other guy's question. Because I've done the video about 10 reasons not to date single moms, and this guy said, I agree with that. I'm just curious. How, if she is super hot and you want to have a sweaty tumble session with her and then just walk away? So I guess he's asking, like, how can you hook up with the single mom and then be able to walk away? I'm not in the practice of really encouraging guys to just hook up with women just to get their rocks off, because on the other end of that hookup is a woman that may truly like you. They have feelings, they have emotions. When you hook up with a woman, you're entering into her. You're literally entering into her life in a very deep and emotionally and spiritually connected way. And for you guys that just want to be like, well, I wouldn't want to date a single mom, but I want to hook up with her because she's so hot. That is not fair to her. It's not fair to her kids. And there are plenty of single women out there that don't have kids. That'll be fine to do that with. There are plenty of single moms out there that'll be like, hey, I just want to hook up. So if you happen to come across one, it's like, look, I got kids. I'm not trying to date seriously. I just want to hook up. Then props to both of y'all. Do that stuff. But to be like, hey, how can I stealthily get in there and hook up with her, then get out? That's not fair to them. So I'd say the way to do that is to not do it, because it's kind of sleazy and I don't approve of it. If you want to go that route, you can. And I'm sure there's other people on here that'll teach you how to do that. I'm not one of them. All right. Anyway, moving on. So we move on to this guy here. He says, I'm in a relationship with a 22-year-old with a 6-year-old child. And now, and at first I thought it would be okay. I was fine with it at first, but now I'm having second thoughts. The relationship seemed to always be good at first, even with the son, but later on I found out she lied about telling her friends about our relationship business and talking about me behind my back to them, even said she would cheat, although she claimed it didn't have any meaning behind it and she was just talking ish. I broke up with her once because of obvious reasons, but we got back together, and ever since then, I still don't trust her. Should I end it for good, or do you think she was actually telling the truth behind it all? Well, I think that women that like you aren't going to talk trash about you to their friends. And a woman that is really sees your self-worth isn't going to be saying things like, well, I would totally cheat on you, or this guy's trash, all of the other stuff. Okay. So you got to really look at, this is funny, because like a lot of times guys will write me, and in reading to their question, I'm looking at them like they really don't know the answer to this. Like they really don't. Like this woman said that she lied about talking to her friends about their business, their personal business, and that she said that she would possibly cheat on him, and said that she was talking trash behind his back. But should I stay with her? Does any of that sound good? Like you want to be dating a woman that's going to be your cheerleader, that is saying positive things about you, that is promoting you to her friends about, this is such a great guy and he does this and that. Oh my God, he's so great. And that even in times when there's turmoil, she's not going around blabbing about the turmoil to her friends. Now, again, I always say the caveat is, if you as a guy are abusing your woman, she has every right to go to her friends and talk trash about you and say, this guy's being dangerous. What should I do? But outside of that, like your guys' situations, your guys' personal tips and whatever like that, that's y'all's business. If she's going behind your back talking about stuff and whatever, and in a negative light, then it's one of those things where you could talk to her about it. You could bring it up and say, hey, so there's been times when this has happened or this has been happening, and I don't approve of that. I don't want to date somebody that's going to be doing that stuff. So if that's how you're going to be, that's totally fine. I'm just not the guy you can do it with. And then see if she acquiesces and changes that kind of stuff. And like really, you're able to actually see the changes. But if that's not happening, then I would say that this is probably not a person you want to be with, because a woman that has respect for you and is highly interested in you is only going to want to speak your praises, is going to be respectful of when you say things like, hey, so don't talk about X, Y, and Z with your friends. And ultimately, they're going to be there because they love you and care for you and think the world of you. If they're telling things to their friends that indicate that's not true, then you got to ask yourself, is that a person you really want to stay with? Probably not. So hopefully, guy, that helps you out. Let's move on to another question here. This person says, there's a lot of single mom questions today. So this guy says a woman was an hour late and then goes to the wrong place. So he goes, I think at the time he wrote this, he was actually on the date or waiting for the date to get there. But he says, honestly, it's ridiculous. I've been like 10 minutes late to dates before and felt like I got dinged for it. But this girl tonight is an hour late. Originally, we actually agreed on 8 o'clock, but she switched it up in the afternoon. Something about her son's practice. Then 20 minutes before, when I'm already on my way, she texts saying she's, quote, still coming. She just got home and is hopping in the shower, end quote. I get there at around 9 and tell her I'm in front of the place. She texts 30 minutes later saying she's, quote, on her way. Then 15 minutes later, calls asking if I'm there, and she says she's on her way. And when I ask how long she'll be, she says 10 minutes. She calls me 20 minutes later saying she's at the place, but it's the wrong one. So again, I agreed to wait till she gets here, And then it says now he's waiting. And then he says, let's be real. I'm probably losing points with her for tolerating this, right? Quick advice needed. What should I say when she gets here? I'm sure stuff happens, but come on, this is just way too much. All right. So first off, this is an example of like when I talked about in the video about dating single moms, about how things can come up all the time with their kids. And so that can cause their date times and stuff to go haywire. This is an example of that. I think that her son probably regularly has practices, and there's probably like a normal time when the practice ends that she has to go pick him up. And so she probably thought, okay, so I know the time for that is normally like 6 o'clock. So I'll pick him up at 6 o'clock. I'll be able to get him home in time so I can get ready for the date and go out the sky, meet him at 8 o'clock. And then what probably happened is the practice ran over, as sometimes practices do. So the practice ends like 7 o'clock now. So she's probably thinking like, oh crap, this guy's going to like bash me because I thought that my kid's practice was going to end at 6 o'clock and it ends at 7. So I'm already going to push this date back. So then she gets home. Once she gets home, we don't know what happened. For all we know, the dude's dad could have hit her up about something. There could have been something involving the kid. They had to fix up, whatever like that. But the point is that this is what I tell you guys about. It's not that single moms are bad. It's just that with them having kids, things are going to arise. And so if you're going to date a single mom, because I don't believe single moms are bad or don't deserve love, like some people thought in that video, but I do recognize that there are complications and obstacles that come with women that have children. This is an example of one of them. So when that happens, if you're dating a single mom, you have to be prepared that these kind of things are going to happen and you have to adjust accordingly. Now, all that said, in terms of this guy's situation, here's the thing, guy. You as a man have to be able to see potential situations coming up, recognize what may or may not happen, and then make the choice what's going to be the best situation for everybody involved. In this case, this woman hit you up, oh God, in the afternoon and said, hey, something about the son's practice, yada, yada, yada. At the point where she called you and said, so there's a situation with my son's practice, you should have canceled the date, because you're in a situation now where, because you didn't do that, it only tumbles and tumbles and tumbles into worse and worse of a situation. Whereas if you'd have just said, oh, wait, your son's got a practice tonight, or the practice is going to go late, you know what? I feel you. I understand. Your kid comes first. And so let's just move the date to another day where your time for the day isn't so full up. Okay, that would have shown respect for her time. It would have allowed her to recognize that you understand the complications that can come up sometimes with women that have kids. And you could have set the date for a different day when her kids didn't have practice, or maybe when she dropped the kids off at their dad's place, and you would have all the time in the world now to spend time with her. As such, you didn't do that. And so now you're dealing with a woman that is still trying to see you. So I don't think this is a test that she threw out at you. I don't think this is showing a level of disrespect and how dare you don't show up on time, yada, yada. This is a single mother that had a situation come up with her kid, and she wasn't able to get the time that she wanted to get with you. And as proof of that, she still tried to go to the date. She bust her butt to still try to get ready, get makeup on, shower, pick a dress out, and then drive to you and text you and call you and say, hey, I'm on my way. Hey, I'm this time away, blah, blah, blah. And you're thinking, she's probably thinking like, oh, he'll just stay there. This is that, blah, blah, blah. And I get that, because there are some women out there that probably have that mindset of like, well, I'm the queen and I'll just show up whenever and the guy will be happy that I'm there. But most women I find are freaking the freak out. They're thinking like, oh my God, like this guy's going to hate me and I'm really trying to get there on time, but I feel so stupid and dumb. And why couldn't I make my times my day better? And oh, why couldn't my kids practice on time? And oh, I had a situation with dad and he's going to, and I'm trying to make a good impression on this guy. And he's just like, that's what's probably going on in her head. I don't think she's having any kind of like heightened idea of herself about how you're going to wait for me and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I think she's freaking the freak out. And I think the worst thing in this situation you could do when she gets there is try to be like, how could you be late and this and make it all about you? Because that's going to turn her off immensely. Now, she already feels bad. So when she gets there, you can make a little joke, oh, like, hey, I already, the bar's almost closed, but I got a couple of drinks, haha, whatever. Like, you can make it into a joke, but the last thing she needs for you in this situation is to make her feel worse. She's already beating herself up on the way there, knowing that she's going to have to face you and knowing that she's late and you're probably already pissed off, okay? So When she shows up, you trying to add to that, it's not going to make the night better. It's going to make her feel like you're trying to be her parent. And by giving her a lecture about you need to be blah, blah, blah. Now, I will say this. If this happens more than one time, like let's say I went on dated a girl one time. We went on 5 dates. And on our first date, she was late. Our second date, she was late. Third date, she was on time. Fourth date, she was on 20 minutes late. And I was supposed to meet her at Starbucks, and I just went home. And then the fifth date, we were supposed to go to a play, and she was supposed to pick me up because I didn't have a car at the time. And she got to me like 40 minutes late. And at that point, I said, I'm done. Because now she had a history of being late, which is now showing that my time is indeed being disrespected. This is one time where this happened. So I'd say err on the side of we all make mistakes. This is a one-time incident. Figure out, for the future, if she calls you up in the middle of the day and says, hey, so I'm ready, I'm going to go on our date tonight. This thing came up. Know that means you got to cancel it and see when you can rework the date better, and don't bash her on this. But if it happens again and again and again, where there's now a history of this, then you might want to consider that this person is just all about themselves and not you. But right now, I'd say that's not the case. This is why, again, when you're dating women with kids, these things are going to come up and you can't handle it, then don't date single moms, because it's not fair to them, because their life is such as though their first priority is going to always be that kid, whether they're in school, whether they're helping them, practice for stuff or get ready for schoolwork or whatever like that. The kid's going to be the top priority. And so sometimes that means you're going to have to cancel things you want to do with her because she has to do for her kid. Okay. And if you can't handle that, then don't date single moms. So hopefully, Guy, this helps you out. So yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about today. I just wanted to answer some questions. As always, if you all have questions you want me to answer on one of these shows, you can write to me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. You can leave your comments down below this video. I'll probably end up cutting this video into various sections and posting them up throughout the course of the upcoming week. But yeah, I am Harry Wilmington. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to go to the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. Check out my ebooks, audiobooks, and other programs that are designed to help you date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. All right? I'm Harry Wilmington, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips on attracting women using your natural introvert charm. Oh, yeah.